Story 1. The Canada concession is the agreement that was already in place from Biden. He didn't get anything. They are just still doing the thing they were already planning to do. As everyone said, it was all for headlines to hide what Elon is doing. Story 2. They make a threat, the other guys don't buckle. They instead retaliate and then have a discussion instead of just diplomatically asking to revisit the trade agreement. I think it's kind of bullshit. Story 3. So to recap, Mexico deployed the same 10,000 troops that it deployed back during Biden's administration, and Canada basically reiterated what they were already preparing to implement. How was any of this a win for the United States? Story 4. This is good for both Canada and Mexico because it gives both countries time to diversify trade away from the United States because you just know that he is going to keep pulling this nonsense every month. Story 5. He did so much harm with these stupid stunts. He is posturing like this is a win, but he has no idea what he just gave up on the world stage. The United States is no longer a reliable trade partner, and that is only the beginning. Story 6. It might work for his base in the United States, but I can guarantee you that it leaves a bitter taste in our mouths. Canadians have fought alongside the Americans for almost 2 centuries now, and that's the thanks we get. He looks like a petulant child who is hard to negotiate with. Less than 1% of the American fentanyl comes from our side of the border. We have tight border security. For a guy who tells his supporters he is doing everything to make sure the woke left leaves power in Canada, he failed miserably. I have never seen so many people rallying behind Trudeau. Story 7. Risky business. It may yield short-term results that are pleasing to Trump's base and those who invested heavily in his campaign. But in the long run, it's injuring our relationships with our allies, and we will pay the price eventually when it comes time to rely on them for favorable trade deals in the future. In other words, he's running the country like a chief executive officer. Story 8. Trump is going to announce this as a huge win for him, despite the fact that it is a problem he himself created and nothing was actually achieved. And his mindless followers will believe him and celebrate. It is probably going to happen many more times in the near future. Story 9. Given that Trudeau said he couldn't get Trump on a call to talk, it's all ego-stroking by Trump. He could have easily gotten on the phone to both leaders, discussed the issue, and worked on an agreeable solution. Then, if they don't cooperate, go public with retaliatory tariffs. No surprise that Trump skipped the first step in international relations. Story 10. I'm just sad. It feels like my dad slept with both of my uncle's wives. Now none of my cousins want to talk to my family because my dad is awful. Plus, my brother finds it funny. I get it. My family is terrible. I wouldn't trust or forgive either. Maybe in a couple of decades we can fix things. All I can do is just cheer on my cousins and buy their things moving forward. I see it as part of my responsibility to not let them forgive or forget, as I know my family will hurt them again. Obviously, the former president threatening our allies is more serious, but it just feels like grieving your extended family that you respect and enjoy due to your association with thoughtless people. Story 11. Important to highlight his big win with regard to Canada was something they were already planning to do. So basically Canada didn't have to concede anything, and in the end, the United States looks like a chaotic, unreliable ally and trading partner to the rest of the world. Story 12. Nothing changed except our relationships with our neighbors. Mexico would have agreed to this if asked up front. There was no need to put on fake pressure. Canada was already doing this exact same thing since it announced it in December. Trump literally just accepted what was already announced and funded. This was all just a way for Trump to look like he's forcing big deals that he'll market as building a safer America. It's just a waste of time and creating enemies from strong allies. Story 13. For one, he is claiming that he reached an agreement with the president of Mexico, and it is the same deal that Biden negotiated 4 years ago, which basically means that Trump caved and claimed victory. All that happened here was Trump went into a panic because everyone saw him for the moron he is, so he is trying to save face because the economy was tanking. He is an idiot and a liar. Story 14. I will not be buying any American products if there are Canadian versions available. I will not be vacationing in the United States. Netflix and Amazon have already been canceled. The company I own does order materials from the United States. We will be sourcing Canadian alternatives this week. Anything that we cannot source from within Canada, we will keep a healthy supply on hand to weather any future storms or the next time Trump wants to rattle the saber. We've already outright canceled one contract with a United States client who emailed this morning and said they expected us to pay any tariffs and that we should talk to our officials about becoming the 51st state. Not sure about anyone else, but we've circled the wagons in anticipation of a fight. We will not be caught off guard again. Story 15. Trump saw the market futures on Sunday and blinked first. As little as he cares about regular Americans, he absolutely adores the Wall Street crowd and did not want to be buried by them. Story 16. I think that, as two North American free trade agreement signatories under threat by a third belligerent partner, Mexico and Canada should bargain with us as a collective. If they stick together, they win. Story 17. He accomplished very little, especially in the Canada case. What it has done, especially regarding Canada, is create a huge anti-US sentiment. We will feel the impact regardless because these countries will diversify their trade and stop buying American. Story 18. Imagine someone is already paying their rent consistently, but a tough new landlord comes in to say, "Hey, you better pay your rent, buddy." And the renter is like, "Yeah, I was doing that already." And the response, "See, you've got to be tough with these people." And the crowd cheers. Mexico was already battling crime on their end, just as we were already battling illegal weapons trafficking. This is pure political theater with no substantive change. He's not working for any real change in policy in either nation. He's working for a press release so he can appear tough. It's wild to me that people don't remember last time around when it was leaked that he told Obrador, "Look, you don't have to actually pay for the wall, just make a press release saying that you're going to. Just give me the headline and I'll say nice things about you too. My people will never know the difference." It was the same thing when he pressured Ukraine. You don't have to actually start a fabricated investigation into Joe Biden. Just announce an investigation. It's been reported again and again with Trump. The man understands media manipulation. Just do this thing to make me look strong. It doesn't need to be real at all. But people are truly depressingly uninformed. At some point next week, he could announce the formation of the exact social security system we presently have, or even a significantly worse one, and people would be like, "Wow, he really gets things done." I imagine at some point he'll demand Canada make the sun rise in the east, and the next morning 70 million supporters will look on in amazement. Holy crap, he did it, and applaud his bold leadership and strong-arm tactics. But the long-term effect of this kind of political theater and capricious willingness to antagonize our partners and manipulate media without any meaningful purpose will be foreign divestment away from US businesses and the political rise of other nations, so basically China, as the premier source of global leadership. You can only break so many deals before it becomes impossible to make any new ones. I call it the forget leadership doctrine. Edit. To make a vintage Simpson reference, the Bear Patrol must be working like a charm. Not one bit of Canadian fentanyl in sight, and half the country is buying the silly rock. Story 19. I am done with Trump. Lost 4 major customers today who cited Trump's uncertainty as the only reason they will be exiting Canada. Trump can't put together a coherent executive order, and he has no idea how badly he is ruining international trade. Story 20. It was a distraction to give Musk cover to execute a digital coup while causing the first of many catastrophes that end after market open, allowing the oligarchs to consolidate further market share. Story 21. It seems like Trump has no idea what he is doing if he does a complete about-face less than a day later. Trump doesn't have a strategy, so I have nothing to consider. Story 22. Any strategy that throws Americans into turmoil about prices, about inflation, about job security, is a bad strategy. You don't need to shove the baby's head underwater to let people know that you can save the baby from drowning. Story 23. He is playing chicken with millions of people's livelihoods. The ripple effect could and will extend to countless more. These are bully tactics that have no place in our politics. Unfortunately, it is just another Monday for our government. Story 24. It's a horrible policy to attempt to bully your allies. But really, he is backing out because more than likely the huge negative backlash and his big money supporters were telling him how bad it will be for him and the economy. He will spin it as a victory, but Canada and Mexico didn't really concede anything. Mark my words. Over the next 30 days, he will proclaim how great he negotiated. He is going to proclaim some grand victory and a genius strategy when really nothing meaningful will change in any way. Then the tariffs will be a thing of the past. That's his play. That is always his play. Something goes bad, everyone's fault but his. Something goes well, it's all because of him. He makes a bad decision, spins it, and says it was the smartest political move ever. His shtick is so tiresome, and it astounds me anyone puts up with it, but millions of people do. Story 25. Trump backed down again after Canada threatened to do more harm with tariffs. He was just making empty threats to his stubborn supporters. The rest of the world sees him for what he is, shallow. Story 26. Trump has done severe harm to the relationships with our closest allies and has shown the United States cannot be trusted. I suspect Canada and Mexico will slowly shift trade away from the United States whenever possible, which only further strengthens China's standing on the world stage. Story 27. Considering Mexico's pledge for 10,000 troops at the border is the same made under the Biden administration without a threat of tariffs and is meant to stem the flow of guns into Mexico, I think you all are once again giving Trump too much credit and trust. Story 28. He creates every problem he complains about and then magically solves them almost immediately. It's idiotic, but most people fall for it, or at least enough to keep these maniacs in power. Story 29. It's a distraction. They are doing massive power grabs right now. This is just cover so the news and people focus on that and not the worst of what they are doing. Don't let them distract you from their coup. Story 30. It is typical Trump. 1. Make threats. 2. Wait for outrage. 3. Get slapped down. 4. Claim victory. If you didn't see it coming, you are not paying attention. He got nothing from Canada and Mexico, but somehow it is a win. His dog and pony show is for the morons. Story 31. Both Canada and Mexico's agreements are not because of this tariff war. Both plans already existed months and years ago, not new. His tariff strategy didn't win this. Story 32. What strategy? It's like he just learned about tariffs and thinks he can use them to do everything. He literally doesn't understand that the United States doesn't have the resources, manpower, or need to do everything itself, unless it wants to go back to the Stone Age. He backed down after blowing up a deal he claims he won by claiming yet again he won. Story 33. Create a crisis, tank the market, raise everyday costs on everything, create fear and chaos, ruin ally relationships, and claim some victory all the while performing a coup while everyone is focused on the manufactured crisis. Sound about right to anyone? Story 34. Threaten unprovoked absurdity, generate headlines, and tell a story of how you forced them to the negotiation table. Ignoring that you never attempted to reasonably negotiate anything, that your reasoning is complete nonsense, and that the whole thing is needlessly destructive. When even the Wall Street Journal editorial page is repeatedly calling a Republican's actions the dumbest trade war in history, you've really set a new precedent for idiocy. Tariffs are usually a terrible idea, especially when you threaten to impose them on major trading partners for no good reason. Additionally, publicly threatening, belittling, and attempting to humiliate allies is an even more terrible idea. The macho posturing and bravado of these actions appeal to the worst type of voters. I hate this crap. Story 35. It was just a charade to distract us from what Elon is doing. He threatens our allies, and then they appease him by promising things that were already promised back in December and mean nothing to the average American. So stupid. Story 36. I don't know. Canada's tariff response was pretty good. It would have been bad for Trump politically and better for Canada standing up to Trump, especially since the European Union is up next. Ultimately, it's a good thing the tariffs are not in place, but irreparable damage has been done between close trading partners. Story 37. Canada and Mexico should unilaterally solidify a trade deal without the United States. Then they should subsequently lock their borders to all United States trade, travel, and energy transfer. Force Trump to attempt military control. Pull the sheep's clothing off this person and reveal him for what he is, a fascist dictator. China should just call in the United States debt. Economically, China owns the United States. Story 38. I still don't understand why it's happening in the first place. Seriously, why is this orange turd starting a trade war with our three biggest trade partners? Is it any more complex than the fact that Donnie is a stupid idiot who wants everyone to think he has a big dick? Seriously, what is going on? Story 39. Short-sighted stunt. Trump manufactures a crisis, creates drama, then pretends he solved the problem that didn't exist in the first place. So do you really think anyone wants to trade with us? Hey, you in Kentucky, think your liquor is going to miraculously reappear on store shelves in Canada? Bet they are in no rush to put it out, and I'm predicting sales drop if and when they do stock it again. And next time he threatens tariffs, stand back for the outpouring of laughter.